Welcome to the Ref Room, hockey talk for referees, coaches, players, and fans.
Broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
With your hosts, Smokin, Silz, and Baumruck.
Live.
The Ref Room starts right now.
And now your host.
Oh yeah, it is Monday, and this is the Ref Room. I am Smokin, Silz, joined by Baumruck. Hope you guys are doing well. We got a very special guest in the house tonight, so really excited to have her join us. So I think we're going to get right to it because, you know, the Olympics have just finished up, and, you know.
Just can't wait, can you, Scott?
I can't because, you know, you get a great guest. You got to bring him on quickly. You know, Erin worked the Olympics overseas, and she's going to, like, fill us in on, like, everything that you could ever possibly imagine as doing an Olympic game. So let's welcome former Olympic referee Erin Blair to the show.
Hi, guys.
So how you been, Erin? It's great to see you.
Doing all right. Thanks. You too.
Yeah, well, you know, we got all kinds of questions because obviously this Olympic Games has been a little bit different with what's going on. But, you know, we'd like to really kind of hear from somebody that's been there and experienced and talk about the experience of being at the Olympic Games, plus like the intensity and some of the things that you can share and what goes on. We've got a couple people that have been there. You know, Billy Hancock from the Chicago area just finished up working the Olympics. We also had who else was there? We had
Scott,
like four people.
Scott, hang on, you just skipped over a whole bunch of stuff right there. All right, so number one, Billy Hancock worked the gold medal game.
See, I didn't even get to see it, so I didn't even know. But he worked the gold medal game. There you go.
So that's number one. Number two is we had quite a few people there that were represented. Kendall Handley, who lived in Chicago for a while. She was there as well. And Sarah Strong, who also lived in Chicago for a little while, was also there. So we had that. And then I forget the other ones. Erin, you probably know better than me.
Was it Stefan or some?
Stefan Renault went from Kansas City.
Yeah.
Brian Oliver. And I can't remember the other female's name, I don't think. That's bad. I try.
I don't think. I think that's it from Chicago. Melissa Scola went as a supervisor. Scott Zelkin went as a supervisor. Yeah, so we had quite
Jackie. Did Jackie go?
Jackie Spresser, but she's not from the area. She's from out in Colorado. But yeah, she was out there. So very good group of people from our area were represented, which is kind of nice.
Yeah. So when you went, you know, can you tell us about the process of how you got there? I mean, you know, how do you get an invite? What happens? You know, what is it like when you find out and the travel and all that good stuff? I mean, share your experience with us.
It is a very, very long process, to be totally honest. I started refereeing in 1999. And just like they do for the players, they have like development camps and things like that. So for the referees, I'm sure you guys have talked about some of the development opportunities on your show and different opportunities for referees. And that's the type of stuff that, you know, once you start refereeing, you go to those camps and you get pushed through and you earn these opportunities through USA Hockey. And then once you go to what's called elite camp, or I don't know if that's not what it's called anymore, is it? That's what it was when I went.
No, we covered it, but I don't remember what the actual technical name is now.
I'm not familiar with the new structure of but that's where you get your international license. So once you get your international license, then you get the opportunity to skate international tournaments. So there's 3 different levels. You could do games in our country that are considered international games. You could do games that are out of our country. And so you kind of work your way up through the system. So my first international tournament was in 2003. So you think about from 2003 to 2014, every year I was able to travel and go to a different tournament in a different place. And you just go and do your job, and hopefully you get a better tournament the next year. Cause the way that the levels of hockey are set up internationally, right? You have different divisions. and they kind of push you through and bump you up as you go if you are so deserving. So the Olympics, once you get to the highest, which is the A pool, right? So the highest level that there is for women's hockey, which is kind of the same for the men's side too. You go to a pre-Olympic camp where they bring in anybody who potentially could go to the Olympics, and they put you through a whole slew of tests, they do off ice testing, on ice testing. They do a lot of team building stuff. They kind of test you to see how you're going to work with the group. And then at that point, when I went, that was in August of 2013. So we went to pre-Olympic camp in Lake Placid. And then we didn't find out until December that we were going. December of 2013 that we were actually accepted and going to Russia 2 months later.
Well, what was it like? What was it like going to Russia in the first place?
That's what I was just about to ask too, but I was muted.
Russia, actually, I was really excited to go because I've heard really good things about Russia. I've heard some other friends that have been for different tournaments and been given the opportunity to do things there. It's beautiful. It's a great country. And I mean, granted, there's probably some other issues that, outside of a hockey tournament, you might not experience it within the hockey tournament. But we got to see a whole bunch of different places that were beautiful, even while I was there within the Olympics. So I was really excited to go. I wish I could have traveled a little bit more, but being that it was Russia and I didn't want to travel by myself, we kind of
you probably weren't by yourself. You were probably being followed by somebody.
No. I will tell you,
they've got incredible architecture, and the arts in that country are really amazing. From what I've
just the landscape, right? It's beautiful. The different places and different cities that we went to within, close to Sochi when we were there, it was awesome just to go and see how they set things up. And everybody in Russia, any of the volunteers that were at the Olympic Games, all they wanted was for you to like their country, and they wanted you to enjoy your time there. And so every time it was, can I get you anything? Can I help you? How can I make your experience better? So for me, Russia was awesome. I thought it was a great experience.
Did you stay in the actual Olympic Village? Are you treated like the athletes, or do you house differently than the athletes?
We were housed differently. All the officials for all sports in the coastal cluster. So if you looked at the Olympics this time, how they showed you a map and everything was kind of spread out, they do that because they need the ski jumping and the snowboarding up in the mountains. And then the other ones are down, sea level or whatever. And so ours was considered the coastal cluster. So the speed skating, the figure skating, the curling, all of that, the hockey, all that kind of stuff was in one. So it was kind of, we got to do a whole bunch of stuff in that area, right? We stayed outside of the Olympic Village. The athletes stayed on one side, and the officials of, the figure skating judges, the curling judges, everything kind of stayed in. It was actually a beautiful hotel. And we were all able to stay in that area while
Are you allowed to interact with any of the athletes? I mean, because obviously you're trying to stay separated, and you don't get to work like as a U.S. official. You wouldn't work a U.S. game, correct? So
when I went, no, we did not interact with a whole lot of current athletes. So like being a U.S. citizen, I was able to get into, each country had their own house, like where you could go and eat and shop and do all that kind of stuff. So I was able to get into the USA house. I did meet some really cool people, some athletes that were in there. I met Jeremy Roenick. I met, just people that I would never have. I'm a big Pittsburgh fan. Sorry, guys. But the coach at the time of the Pittsburgh Penguins, he was in there, and I met him. So like people that you wouldn't necessarily, Christy Yamaguchi, I met while I was there. Not necessarily hockey players or people that you would, but you could have run into anybody that was a U.S. citizen that was in the USA house. So
That's very cool.
Interesting.
So how long?
I didn't know. Hang on. Wait a minute. You got to meet Jeremy Roenick, which I did before, but in this kind of atmosphere, you got to spend some time with him, I bet, right?
I did.
He's,
I did. It was
he's
awesome.
he's a nice guy. Like, I mean,
He's-
watching his videos and stuff, is he just like that? Like, I mean, I remember one day he did something in Phoenix where he's like, during quarantine, he's like riding around on a little bicycle and he's jumping over nets and he's throwing a basketball into a hoop that's into his pool. And I'm like, wow, I wonder if this guy's actually doing this or if he's having a good time, like right now.
He's a personality. I've met him many times
he's
through one
so
of my
nice.
friends. And yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Every
He's
time
so
I
nice.
met him.
Yeah.
I met him one day and I just went up to him and I was like, hey, I'm from Chicago. Like just the typical fan, like, I just met Jeremy Roenick. And I took a picture with him and the next day, well, maybe not the next day, but within the next couple of days, I saw him back in there again and he was sitting down eating lunch and he's like, hey, Erin, come over and eat with me. And I was like, are you serious? So we sat there and we had lunch and we got to talk. And the funny thing is that year when I got back, I ended up being able to go to, it would have been the next, so 2015, right? The Hawks won the cup in 15.
Yeah.
I got to go to a game down in Tampa and he happened to be doing his job, right? Outside. Tampa has like that big area where you can, everybody congregates and they do their show from outside. And so I like snuck down I'd been, I don't know how many months since I'd met him. And I snuck down and I was going to say hi to him and just, introduce myself again and thank him he was so super nice when we were in Sochi and he remembered me and we sat there and we talked for about 5 minutes. Like it was just like we were old friends, I don't know that he would remember me now, 8 years later, but it is what it is. And it was so cool just to kind of interact with him at a personal, just a normal level, not like, so that was really cool.
Well, I miss him being on the air. I mean, I thought he did a really good job as a broadcaster, and we've had him up at the radio station in Chicago a couple times. He's come in and used the studio back when he was broadcasting and doing some things. And he's good people, man. I mean, he's a really nice guy. So it's too bad. But
yeah, being able to meet.
Can't hear you, Brad. Your mouth is moving, but did you lose your mic?
The cough button was on.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay.
Hey, you know what? You think it's Wednesday some weeks. I leave the cough button on.
I know.
Go ahead. I already lost what I was thinking of, so now I'm embarrassed. Go right ahead.
Okay, very good. So, what was it like working the very first game? Was that the biggest crowd that you've actually worked? And, who was your first game that you ended up doing at the Olympics?
You're going to test my memory on that.
Of course I am, because you're not going to forget that.
Yeah,
Show the ink, Erin. How do you remember you were at the Olympics? Show the ink. Where's the ink?
That I do have. I do have.
Yeah, you got to put it up a little closer so we can see it.
A little closer.
Yeah, Erin's got like a really cool tattoo, so you know she was at the Olympics. So that's
I don't
awesome.
remember the exact games in the order that I did, but I think once we stepped on the ice for like our first practice was when my nerves kind of settled. Like you kind of like, oh, all right, it's another sheet of ice. It's just another ice rink, right? But I think the people that we were with really helped. The other officials you kind of just go into it with, it's just another hockey game. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself absolutely insane and the nerves are going to get you. But I skated 4 games and then I was a backup for the bronze medal game, but I did work the semifinals. So
that's awesome. So cool. You're nodding your head, Brad. Is your cough button still on, Brad?
No. The cough button's not on. No, it's not. Thank you, though. Appreciate that. What did you say? Practice? Like a practice game or like a practice skate that you guys had after you landed to get acclimated with the altitude and stuff like that?
Yeah, so every day we got ice time to go and do whatever, whether it was some light skating or we just some days we did like scheduled picture day, or we could go and take one day. We just got free reign to go take whatever pictures we wanted. So like, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook with Jackie and Kendall, and they've posted a bunch of pictures of them with the rings and things like that. Was probably my favorite, where you just get to go take the pictures that you are going to save forever, and create your memories of things that I'm sitting here looking at my jersey, and the picture on the bottom is me sitting on my bum right in front of the Olympic rings on the boards. Like, that's one of my favorite pictures, just because when do you ever get to do that? Like, that's going to be one that's framed forever. So
Do you
Well,
miss reffing? I mean, it's been a while now. Are you doing any games, or are you thinking about coming back anytime soon?
I have not skated in about 2.5 years, maybe a little longer, since before I was pregnant with my son, who just turned 2. So, and I am currently expecting my second. So, I am registered. I am a current official, but not for a little while. You gotta give me a little time to get back into it. We'll see if my
Well,
skates still fit.
Well, I'm going to say thank you, because I learned an awful lot from you, because you ran the ADP program and, mentored everybody and helped us learn so much. And I really appreciate all that you did for us and as a community and all the officials, because, you're a wealth of knowledge and you should not give that up. You should continue to share.
I do miss that part of it. I do miss the teaching and the community of people, right? So I've been away for, a long time, and when I see, the faces of people that I used to hang out with and sit in the locker room with, and, chit chat and all that fun stuff. And
Yeah.
I miss that part of it. I miss, being able to go out afterwards and have a pop or a beverage, and um, you know, come back.
Well, I can tell you definitely. I've said it before. You can come out and help with an ADP seminar day or something one time when we have a meeting, or just come say hi, because you're always welcome with me. So
Karen
it's a
says
lot of
hello, and
fun.
she says, in a huge
I totally
coincidence, in 2011, Erin was headed to Russia via Germany, and the World University team was headed to Turkey via Germany on the same plane.
I totally forgot about that. That is so true. You were on the same plane.
Yep,
I don't
yep.
know that I was going to Russia, but I was going in 2011. I would have been going. Where was I off to? But yeah, we
So
were
it's
all on the same.
That
We
would have
were
been
on the
two
same
years
plane, and I
prior.
was
So is
like,
that World Games, maybe?
2011. I think I went to Switzerland, maybe Switzerland, but most of our international flights went through Germany. So um, we were all on the same flight, and I got back. I got on the plane, and I was like, "Hey, I know her."
Just proves it's a small world all the
What a
time. You always run
coincidence,
into
right?
somebody.
Let's
We
not
have a
tell any other
Facebook
stories,
user
Karen. We've got some other
I
stories between you and I.
says, come back, come back. We miss you. And let's see, we got Sean
so
said,
Scott,
tuned in,
Scott,
great podcast.
the
Hi,
link is
Sean. Long
gone.
time since I've seen you. Holy moly.
Yeah. So the link's not working. Is that the deal?
I can't find it in any of our past videos, so
All
that
right.
means
Well,
it's got a
I'll
thing
get
there.
it
It's
for you.
Michelle.
So, yeah. But again, everybody, if you're just tuning in, please hit the subscribe button. Come over to YouTube. That we're going to migrate everything over to YouTube. So YouTube is the place to be. YouTube.com/C, which is for channel /refroom. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button. It helps us out. It helps the algorithm share out so that more people can enjoy the show, and we can talk more hockey. Speaking of hockey,
Hey Scott, if you search ref room right into Google, it's the
You'll
first thing
find
that pops up now.
okay. Well, see, we're growing.
You
We're
guys,
growing.
big
That's
time.
good. Yeah,
You
we're
guys, you
huge.
guys
Not
are
yet.
getting there.
We're huge. We come up page 1 on YouTube. So
Well, that $6.95 we're paying a month is really paying off. I noticed.
right, exactly. So you guys, everybody that follows hockey, I see the Hawks today. They parted ways with Bobby Hull as one of the ambassadors.
I did
So-
see that.
Did.
So I guess is there 1 or 2 left? I mean, we lost Tony Esposito, we lost Makita. They parted ways with Bobby Hull. Who are the other ambassadors? Who are the other 2?
Erin mentioned one.
Jeremy Roenick?
I believe so. And Chelios.
Well, Chelios, I could see. I'm not sure
For sure, Chelios.
Would Roenick be one? Because, he was pretty much aligned
I'll
with the Sharks for a long time. So I don't know if
I'll go pull up the article.
has he been brought back into
Google
the fold?
that.
Because as a
I will.
50-goal scorer, he sure should have been brought in. I mean, the only other 50-goal
talking.
scorer we had was Eric Daze, Eric's coach at with Mission, and boy, he's still a beast on the ice. He was one of those guys playing in that men's fantasy camp that they had, or the fantasy camp they had at Fifth Third a couple years back. Oh my, the guy's amazing. He's still a great player. Still skates like no tomorrow, and he really gets around with the puck. He's really good. You'd be impressed. You would think, oh, okay, he's just kind of slowed down as a former NHLer with the bad back, but oh no, not at all. He's a beast.
Don't tell
Best
him
guy
that.
on the ice. Best guy on the ice.
Savard.
So did you come up with you didn't find him?
Still looking. I know
Okay.
there was an article. I skimmed through it earlier.
Well, I'm
and it
sure
said-
somebody watching the show is going to
two
know
were-
who it was. So Karen
It'd be
says
nice if
Cliff
they helped me
Coral.
out.
It was maybe
I don't know.
Savard.
Ah,
Yeah,
Savard. That's who it is.
Savard.
That's who it
Savard
is. I
could be
remember that
one.
now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the other one's
Anthony said I
Chelios,
thought
know
Savard was still one. That's a
Yeah.
possibility.
that. Yep.
Yeah.
I love seeing
the
these
two. I
names. I
remember
haven't
that
seen
now.
some of these names
What about
in so
Rumble
long.
for those? What's the Rumble for those to avoid YouTube? Why would you want to avoid YouTube? I mean, I like YouTube. They do a great job. So
Hey, you
I'm
know
a
what?
fan.
If you don't like YouTube, we're on Twitch.
yeah, and we're on Facebook. But it'd be better if everybody migrated over to the same platform. It would just be that much better. And then we don't have these issues where you become a Facebook user and not a
I was going to
person.
say, why does it say Facebook user?
Yeah.
So
well,
you
you have to, it's it's
Go
the
ahead.
API. You've got to give permission in order to have your name and image used. So if you don't click a link to get authorized, it blocks you. And it doesn't block you. It allows your comment to come through, but your picture doesn't show up and your name doesn't go up. So if you want to fly
Gotcha.
anonymously, it just makes it a little bit easier for you to do that.
But YouTube, you
secret
don't have to
admirers.
deal with any of that.
Yeah. So that's kind of the deal. So if you had your chance to get back on the ice again, would you like to do that? I mean, it's not like you can't.
I will.
Sure, you're going to come
I
back
will.
at some point. I mean, I'm sure there's a men's league game that would love to have you out there, or
Not a
or
chance. Not a chance. That is a no. I can tell you that right now.
but your husband does men's league, right?
And he loves it.
Yeah.
He loves it.
That's awesome.
I will come back. I will. It's just, you know how the last 2 years have been. Plus having a little one run around, and so it's just been a lot the last 2 years, and trying to stay involved was a little too much for me. So something had to give. Plus teaching full time. We were fully remote for a very long time. So that kind of took precedent with my son, and I do plan on coming back, and I do want to get back involved. It's just a matter of finding the time to make that happen. So a second one isn't going to help, but
Of course not. So, we had Sam Hiller on this show, and Samantha, did her first pro game here in Chicago.
I was there.
a
It was
little while
awesome.
back. Yep. So when do you think we're going to see a female referee in the NHL? And are you sorry? Maybe you got out a little too quick. You could have been working the league and the AHL and maybe a good shot at a game in the NHL as well, if not a career.
I think about that. I've thought about that often. And when all the stuff was going on with the AHL hiring some of the women, and I love seeing everybody succeed. I absolutely love it. It makes my heart so happy. It makes me, it makes what I went through and the struggles that I've had to overcome throughout the years I've been officiating all worth it. To see Sam skate on the ice for that Wolves game I was so proud of her. It was one of my favorite things I've seen in a long time. I don't think I am anywhere close to that capability anymore. One, age, two, your body kind of over time doesn't really want to allow that. I couldn't train to do that. I watched the girls in the Olympics, and it brings back so many great memories of things that I've done, and people that I've met, over the years. I really am so proud of all the women that have done the American League and that have still bust their butt every day to work just as hard, if not harder, than the men that are working in those leagues, because they know they have something to prove. I don't think I got out at the wrong time. I think I got out at the right time. I think I've kind of hit my peak of I love working youth games. I miss the squirt and the pee wee games. Maybe not the parents, but do
How does
miss.
that always come up? There's always a pause, and then except for the parents or the coach, really enjoy the other part of the hockey game.
Coaches, I don't mind. Coaches, coaches, there's ways to handle. Coaches, I can usually talk coaches off a ledge. I've become pretty good at that communication piece, but the parents piece of it, I don't miss. But I do want to come back, and I do want to work some local levels, and I do want to work, even some high school games. There's some really good local hockey in the area that maybe, I can work my way back up to, and as long as my
maybe you can work your way back up to. I'm pretty sure you can get scheduled tonight for a championship game.
Are you busy? There's a spot open tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's sending a text right now going, we got a game at 8:00. We need an official.
Yeah. Pretty sure my husband would say no.
Well, you brought up the parents situation. What do you think about the abuse of officials out there, and what do you think we could do differently to improve that? I mean, I posted an article, and a couple of the referees had sent me a link to this as well, and then one of my other friends gave it to me, and I shared it out. But there is an article up on our Facebook page, dealing with parents behaving badly, and like an official that got sprayed with, I don't know if it was Lysol or something like that after a game some really nasty stuff that goes on, and what can we do better to improve that? I mean, because now you've got more officials that have less experience working games. You used to have to work a few years before you saw some of the levels that they're seeing almost immediately.
It's such a hard topic. I don't think it has anything to do with the level of hockey. I think you're going to see bad behavior in a squirt game, and I think you're going to see the same bad behavior in a high school game. I think that a lot of it is just the way society right now is reacting to things, and our temperament of what we've become or started to accept as normal. And I think it's been a long time coming. It's been brewing for a long time. Some of the stories I could tell you of things that have been said to me throughout my officiating career, and things that have been done to me by parents. It doesn't surprise me that this is where we're at. I think that what's going to need to happen in order for it to get fixed is accountability. People are going to have to start being accountable. And I can tell you that when I step foot back into an ice rink, my cell phone will be ready to dial. Anything that happens, I will not. I've hesitated in the past. I've had parents barge into my referee room. I've had, and I've just kind of blown it off as, it was a one-time thing. And I don't need to, but you know what? It's not. It's happening to lots of people. So both officials and parents need to be more accountable for their behavior. And we need to start taking responsibility for what we're doing as people. And it can't continue the way we're going. Otherwise, we're not going to have officials, and therefore you're not going to have a hockey game, which is sad. Yeah. It's very sad.
Well, they could go back to picking people out of the stands. Okay, you ref and you ref. I mean, I don't see much other option. The way that it's going. I mean, we luckily got through this season, but we already had, somebody from AHI on, and we're short. What did he say? 400 teams, 350 teams, Scott?
Yeah. I mean,
a lot of it's men's league, but still that's a lot of officials and a lot of games that we're struggling right now.
I mean, the the reality of it is the game fees need to go up, and that's a starting point, I think, for a lot. I mean, referees' costs have skyrocketed. I mean, food is up. Probably in a restaurant, if you're out having to move around from rink to rink, you're paying at least 30% more. You used to be able to eat for $10, $12, you get lunch. Now it's $17, $18, and I'm not talking fancy. I'm talking maybe a step
lunch?
Are you serious?
Lunch in a much better spot than me. Maybe it's because I skipped a drink or something.
I'm just talking sandwich, fries, and a drink. I had one today. It was $18 and change, and it wasn't anything to write home about. I mean, it was just what it is. But gas is $4 or $5 a gallon. The costs have gone up. The fees haven't gone up in several years. So now they're addressing that, and hopefully that will make a difference. It'll help people, want to come back and do more games and make it a little more feasible, because let's be honest, you work some of the lower level games. You have kids that are have never done a game, and they're being paid as much or more than some of your officials that have stepped in to help out at some of these games. And it's, I don't know that parents are aware of this, but they need to be aware of it. And it just puts the refs under more pressure, because they're doing more and more games, which means that they get tired, they get irritable, and you're going to get cranky, and the wrong parent's going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and World War III will break out. So there are some challenges that we have, and of course numbers. I mean, we have so many games. We have just so many games. What do we have? 33 or 34,000 that schedule on one website alone. You probably have several thousand on the other sites.
It's easily over 50,000 games in Chicago.
Yeah, and a lot of the teams want 3 and 4 man. You're not going to get 3 and 4 man. You're lucky if you can get 1 man half the time now, or 2. And you do hear, coaches going, oh, yeah, I've had so many times. And these are high school, like varsity teams. They're like, yeah, we've had a lot of times where we only had 1 ref this year, So it's crazy. It's a little different. Yeah, it is. It's crazy times.
Well, that or the teams come in from other areas, and they're like, oh, wow, 3 officials? We haven't even seen 2 all year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all year? They're like, yeah, we either have nobody, and we have to do it, or we have 1. I'm like, oh boy, that's rough.
Scary.
They're like, I'm like, oh, so I feel for them. Like, I don't know why it's so hard on the East Coast right now, but they're having a lot more
real,
problems
and it's
than us.
Everywhere. It's not just the East Coast. It's not just Chicago. Yeah. It's everywhere. You anybody that comes into town, any team, you say, hey, do you get a lot of referees, or oh no, we need more. We need more. That's so if you can skate and you understand the game, now's a good time to get involved. You can really help out. All right, got a couple more comments here. Let's see here. Karen says, Erin was lining an ACHA D2 men's game. She was evaluating the referee. During warm-ups, the male coach said, does she know what she's doing? My reply, probably more than you do. That's why we love you, Karen, because you know what? You'll stick up for everybody, and you know the deal. So, we appreciate that. So thank you for that comment. Let's see. I can't get this. Oh, there we go. Let's see if this one will come up. Yeah. I know when I'm skating 6 to 10 games a weekend. 6 to 10. I did 9 men's league games yesterday, folks. I'm mentally exhausted and honestly don't perform at my best, but I know I'm not alone, and I know I still try my best. It's rough, and parents are relentless. I'm going to agree with you on this, and I will tell you, I work a variety of levels. Brad, you're probably always working, midgets in high school or whatever, but, I work a little bit of everything. Always. I had some games a couple weeks ago, and I ended up doing, and they were AAA games, but I will tell you, I think I worked a AAA 9-year-old or 10-year-old game. Those were some of the hardest games to do. I mean, the game is up and down, up and down. They are right on top of you. Like, they don't give you any space. Like, they don't understand that you get a little space. No, they're like right there. And they play physical. They're bumping. They're doing everything that they're supposed to do. They're aggressive without being overly aggressive. But, defining, like, did they drop a shoulder? Did they stick a hip out? Did they do something? They're good skaters, but they do fall occasionally. It happens. Was it stick on stick and somebody went down? Probably not as much as it would be at a lower level game, but you talk about a challenge and to come in and work those games, it's kind of interesting. It's, but the parents are just psychotic. Like
Scott, I was having a conversation with another official on the phone about 5 or 6 days ago, and we were discussing the mental, like long-term mental effects that possibly referees go through, because this official was very, very upset after a game, and it was already like 4 hours afterwards, and he was still fuming. And, we were talking about it, and I'm like, if you really think about it, every time you go out on the ice, it doesn't matter what level you're doing, squirt, mite, men's league, it's a constant mental assault.
Yeah.
Like, the entire thing is a mental assault. Like, every game that you do, somebody complains. I mean, it's one profession, like a stockbroker. If they made you $100,000, right, you're not going to probably walk in there and scream at them for doing the right thing. Right. But yet
there's probably somebody on the other side of that 100,000 that lost. And so it is kind of the same thing. For somebody to make money, somebody's got to lose money probably on that deal.
No. I got that though. But the winning side yells at you too.
Yeah.
It's like there's no place. Like, there's no win. You could be 100% right and you're still getting screamed at. Like,
and part of that is the parents don't know the rules. There's a lot of rules that they have no idea. There's times where I've called an offsides and parents go crazy, and you're like, what? Yeah. That was like the most black and white thing that I could have called, and you're screaming and going crazy.
I had a coach at a varsity game, Erin. Player is 10 feet from the red line, shoots it down. Icing. Lost his mind. Brought the puck back down. We didn't have another play. We had the same situation. Guy got up, but still 10, 15 feet from the line, threw it down again.
Same thing.
Icing, and he lost his mind twice. Like, how do you lose your mind twice? You played high-level hockey. You understand what icing is. You're coaching a varsity team. Do you not understand what icing is? Like, where do you go with these people? You can't win.
I remember working a game with Kendall, actually, and it was a squirt peewee game, something like that, and her and I are on this game, so we're not Joe Schmo. We are two women working a game, which who knows what that brings to it. But there was a parent who, on an offsides, went completely banana, standing behind the glass. And I look over, and he's standing underneath the zero tolerance sign. Legitimately standing directly underneath the sign. And so I hand Kendall the puck and I said, "Can you hold this for a second?" And I go over and I like point up at the sign, and he looks at me and he goes, "Ooh, sorry." Yeah, exactly. Like, those are the things that you're like, why? Over something that is really ridiculously, I don't know. It amazes me.
There's a good comment in there that just came in that there's a couple of interesting comments. So the number one thing is
Eric said, "Do y'all hear what happened at Addison Sunday night?"
Yes.
I didn't hear because I stay away from Addison. Okay. But you tell me, and I'd be happy to hear that story.
I heard about it.
Let's see. Eric says, what? Okay. Anthony says, it's ignorance, plain and simple. Ignorance.
That was the good comment.
Not wanting or caring enough to learn the rules. Well, folks, if you think the rule book is, like this thick, you are mistaken, because it's like this. We have to know the case book. So, there's a lot of things that go into it. And, even to this day, you have so many coaches and players that don't know the rules for the league that they're playing in. You're playing with USA Hockey rules, and you still think you're playing under college rules or NHL rules or whatever, wherever you played. But, the referees, they learn this stuff. They actually take it pretty seriously. They have a lot of discussions. They test, they read, they study. They really try to be good at what they do. I don't think any referee wants to go out there and blow a call and not be right in the assessing of the rule or properly applying the rule in a situation. and they want to, they want to get it right. Because, I know a couple refs would be like, if you don't know it, don't call it. Yeah, and they're right. Like, you don't want to put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
Brad had to sit Coach down to defend a good icing call that I made. We still laugh at the craziness of that coach and Brad's response to him. Well, what was Brad's response to him?
Well, okay, so there's
Hot
so number
seat.
one. So no. So number one, it was an icing that was like totally simple, and he's screaming that Michelle is calling it or not calling it, whichever way it went. But his excuse was because she was a female. That's what he was implying. And I literally went over to him and I go, what does it matter if she's female or not that you don't understand about icing? What is wrong with you? I don't understand. There's a red line, a puck, it went down, there's a goal line. What is it? What are we not understanding? What has anything to do with her gender? Can you please explain it to me?
Oh,
and I think when I had that response, though, he kind of he did take a big step back and he was like, I think I'll drop this one. Yeah. But he was like, I have no idea where he was coming from, but I'm like, really, dude? We're not going to do this today. Like, hey, we'll figure this out real fast. Yeah. So, but I was like, really? There's a red line, there's a goal line, and a puck. Like, how does this work out? Like, I don't
maybe
understand.
It was men's line and we've removed the red line. Because you won't find that one in the rule book. All right, we got a couple more comments coming here. Let's see what we got. Sean says, have seen a few high school games up here in Wisconsin this year. Parents do not get too abusive. Can't be the water since both up here in Illinois is on Lake Michigan water. Well, we do have some rinks that serve other types of water, and they usually do come from Wisconsin. So, sometimes that does come into play.
They call that
fire it doesn't help.
Scott.
Firewater.
Firewater.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, Eric. There was a nice fight in the stands after the game. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, it was more like on the ground. It wasn't really in the stands, but it was close enough.
All right.
And it was a very interesting fight. You should see the two combatants that started out in it, which turned into several people. And
what was it, Addison, right? Addison?
Yes. Yes.
I tell you.
It was definitely something. It wouldn't be anything that we should comment on, but the video is out there.
We'll leave it alone. Oh, there you go.
There's a video.
The video is out there. Were the people from 911 called for that by any chance? Or
I don't know, but all I can tell you is
it happened with Addison. So true.
There's someone the next day.
There you go. There's the comment. Nothing. Yeah. Read it for yourself. Okay. Yep. Let's see. I saw the video. Dawes. We know Dawes.
No, we don't.
There have been a lot of problems the last couple months.
There's been a lot of problems there for a long time.
There's been a lot of problems everywhere, but, okay. Well, the biggest problem there probably is could use a little cleaning in that ref room. What do you think?
It's definitely better than it was, but yes,
I
agree. Hey, there's heat in there now.
Okay. All right.
Well, there's an improvement.
Yeah.
Big one.
It's major. Okay.
Is there still water all over the floor?
No. It's not as bad as it was, Scott. Erin's referring to when it was like this high.
Okay. All right.
And you had to put your bag.
You don't have to wade. It's not wade in the water if that's what you're thinking. There's no wade in the water, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's gotten a little better, but still could use a mop every once in a while,
Yeah.
A couple other things, but there's heat, and it's not that 1970s plug-in thing anymore.
They have so much good. They have a lot of good hockey there. They've got good teams that play, or they got nice high schools that play out of there. That whole area. That part of the Chicagoland area. The rinks are not probably where they could be. If you look
where's the money to make those improvements?
Well, a lot of these places are getting $600 an hour for ice now. Prime ice is $600 in those areas. They charge accordingly. But, if you look at the areas of, I don't want to name names, but, think about some of the rinks that are close by. Some of the rinks that are close by there.
Mm-hmm.
and you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a number of them, and you don't really have a really nice standout rink there. Like, you go into the city, you go on the north side, north suburbs. There's some really nice facilities that have been built, some big money, and they've done a really nice job. But that area should have some nice rinks. They got a lot of great hockey. They're not poor communities. They're paying big money for the ice. It should be better, I think. That's just my opinion.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm with you. I can tell you, though, that Addison rink, though, I remember my dad playing tennis there when I was a kid because I used to go there
So that was a
Sunday
tennis
mornings
club?
with him. Yep.
Was that Addison Trails? Is that what that was called back in the day? Because
No,
what was the
I
tennis
think it was
club called?
I think it was actually the Addison Tennis Club.
Addison
but yeah,
Tennis
it was,
Club. Okay.
And inside the beverage depot, it looked like Slapshot with the thick orange carpeting, and it was all the way across the floors and across the walls and everything. It was right out of 1970.
Yeah. Well, the 70s were cool, Brad.
Close to when you
come
were
on.
young, Brad. I mean,
Well, it was the 80s when we were young, Erin, and
Yeah.
that carpeting was still there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, if it's left from the 70s and it's now, it's either really cool or it's really bad. So, there's no in between. That's just kind of how it works. It's either really in fashion or it's really bad and it's really dated. So, anyway. So, if you had some advice that you would give to referees with dealing with parents and coaches, what would it be, Erin? I mean, you've worked around the world. Do you see these things in other parts of the world when you've been out working internationally? Or is there a language barrier? Maybe they're saying something that you just don't understand.
let me tell you that if a coach wants to get a point across, whether they speak English or not, they're going to get their point across. I want to say I was in Kazakhstan for the Asian Winter Games, and the coach of China, is it China? Was upset about an icing call. I think it was China. And he took his glasses off of his face and tried to hand them to the linesman.
That's funny.
So he understands. Here, these might help you.
He obviously was upset with the call and wanted to help her, of which so the language barrier, yes, is there, but they get their point across whether they want to, they figure it out. But I will tell you that ended in a bench minor penalty no matter what. So
yeah, it's going to be a gesture at that point. So it's probably worse than, if you just said something quietly to them, because they'd probably be like, okay, I got thick skin. I'll deal with this.
Right? Say it so they don't understand it, and then they have no clue. No, I never really saw any issues with abusive officials outside of, when skating IHF. Even NCAA, very rarely did I see any issues as far as that goes, maybe here and there. So I don't think that it's necessarily, at least when I was skating, that was a huge issue. I think as far as advice goes for at least coaches, I think a lot of stuff can be diffused with good communication skills. Number one, knowing the rules, right? Knowing that you can back up what you're calling. If you don't know the rules, then you have no ground to stand on. Right. But once you know those rules, you very easily can diffuse a situation with communication skills. And that's something that I learned the hard way through coming up through working different levels of hockey. When coaches would get upset, I would get upset. And I learned very quickly that wasn't the right response. So learning how to communicate in the right way and diffuse a situation. If a coach is upset, have the coach come to you. Don't go to the coach. One of those things where you call them down and get them. And not only does that give them time to think while they're coming to you, but it also looks perception wise that you're in charge.
I learned that from you, by the way.
It's probably the best tip I can give you. Don't go to a coach that's standing up on a bench and pointing at you and screaming at you from above you. That just perception from the stands makes it look like the coach is in charge. So I think as far as coaches go, I think that's by far the number one advice that I would give is your communication skills and learning how to like I said, that's something I learned as I got older and working and making mistakes, and learned that it didn't work to be angry and get defensive. Um, as far as parents go, my advice would be don't take it. Call 911. You know, don't engage, but also don't ignore, because I think that's been going on and I was guilty of it for the longest time. The two of you would be absolutely shocked. And I'm sure, Brad, you were probably on the ice a couple times with me when things were said and things were done. But the things that I have heard come out of parents' mouths in front of their children towards a woman, it blows my mind.
The worst was when I was on opposite rink of you
Dairy.
in Darien, and that's the word. I've heard a lot of really horrible things said to people,
Mhm.
but we don't need to relive that. But that one took the taco in my mind. I don't think I've heard. I don't think I've heard anything worse. Like I think that one was just way. I mean, even threatening to kill somebody. I think this even took it to a more personal level than like, because when somebody threatens to kill somebody, a lot of the time they're just speaking out of anger. But
Yeah, they're
this
not.
person put together a very well thought out attack
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
approached it and did it.
I think a lot of times, and to be honest, that instance, the police were called and the person disappeared. Um, but I think a lot of times as officials, we just brush it off and we're like, oh no, don't it, you know, this has never happened to me before. This is not a big deal. This is, you know, and it is a big deal. And I think that as far as dealing with parents, and you can't engage, like you can't bait them and you can't make the situation worse, but don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. And by standing up for yourself, I mean reporting it, doing an incident report, reporting it to the police. I have been assaulted on the ice, and when it happened, I didn't call the police, and I regretted. I was so worried about my next game and getting back on the ice that I didn't call the police, and I should have. I had a grown man physically assault me, grab me, and try to throw me to the ground, and I didn't call the police because I was too worried about, one, what people would think. Two, I was worried about who was going to ref the next game. You know, like things that I shouldn't have been worried about. I should have been worried about my safety, and this person who ended up in the end ended up getting what was deserved, but still should have been dealt with immediately rather than, because I ended up going to the police station later. So I think as far as advice for parents is you just have to do the right thing and be the better person, whether that means walking away and submitting your reports, calling the police if you feel unsafe, asking for assistance if you need it. I think most importantly, our officials need to feel safe, and they're not going to if it continues the way that it is. So,
Well, I think, there's another thing that goes on here. And I think the parents and even a lot of the coaches think everybody is an absolute, NHL superstar referee if they're working their game. And when you have a referee, maybe that's newer, just because somebody is, 30, 35 years old coming out on the ice doesn't mean that they only have, 5 or 10 games of experience under their belt. Maybe they look the part. They look like a referee. Doesn't mean they have the experience of doing it. And, you've got a situation where, again, the expectation is up here for those referees, but, your kid is playing house league or, like barely travel hockey. And, like you guys don't even know where to line up in the second period for the face-off. You're confused. You're on the wrong side. It's no different for some of the referees, as much as we'd like to say all the refs are, amazing and great. And, if they're working these levels, they should be spectacular. But, they're learning the game too. And these coaches need to understand, if you got like a house team or a, gold, whatever the next step up is from there, these people that are coming to ref your games that are 14, 16 years, they're learning the game too. They're learning how to be a referee. They're learning the responsibility behind it, and they don't want to make, any situation worse than it might already be for a team or for themselves. But I don't think people take that into consideration. Nobody ridicules your kid when they can't make a breakout pass in the zone, or your kid falls down going across the blue line. The referee doesn't go, "Oh, you just fell down," or "You crossed the blue line, you can't skate." But, the parents are very quick to do that with the referee. Like, "Oh, don't you know that's icing?" Or, "That was offside. He was way offside." But, there just doesn't seem to be any kind of understanding that referees have to start somewhere, just like players have to start somewhere. They don't go right to the NHL.
I think parents also need to understand that it's part of the game. It's a human aspect of the game, right? There's gonna be mistakes made. Things are gonna happen. Penalties aren't always going to be called. We're human. Your players are human. Your kid's gonna go on a breakaway and they're gonna miss the net. It happens. So I think a lot of times parents expect everybody to be perfect, and especially the officials and their players too. To be honest, they yell at their players. Maybe not to the same degree that they yell at the referees, but I listen to some of the things parents say to kids, and I'm like, I would never in a million years think to say that to somebody that is a minor.
12-year-old kids that are getting F-bombed
I-
like crazy off the bench by their coaches. I mean, honestly, it's
You know what? I got a new idea.
what's that?
Before every game, you have to turn in every kid's report card to the officials. I want to see who I'm dealing with beforehand. I want all straight A students on the ice. If not, we're not moving any further.
I think
Are we even going to have a game?
Probably not.
Can they get a team together with straight A's?
Looking at it from a teacher perspective, right? Like I think I often think about things that happen in an ice rink and are said in an ice rink, if they would ever be said in a school setting. Would they ever be said to somebody in a middle school, or would an adult with a child in the room, would you say that in a school setting? I guarantee you it wouldn't happen.
No,
I'm
but,
not gonna.
but let's go a step further. I work, I do events. So I work in schools sometimes, and, I do proms and homecomings and things of that nature. And, administration wants, the radio clean, friendly version of every song. Have you ever gone by one of your locker rooms by any chance and listened to the music that comes out of the locker rooms? Because let me be the first to tell you, you'd be horrified at what you hear.
I'm not
just
horrified.
the way it is. So, I mean, yes, you're not going to hear that from the school administration, just like you're not. But, that's what's out there, and that's where a lot of this stuff, just kind of comes
Scott,
from.
I'm sitting there when I walk past one of those locker rooms going, where'd they get my playlist? What happened here?
Yeah,
Hey, they stole my music.
yeah, exactly.
Brad's like, hey, can I have my CD back?
I've heard the requests you've made of the scorekeeper
right,
for the songs you want played, Brad. It's not coming from your playlist, trust me.
Yeah, I know. I just felt like trying to sound like I was with it.
Yeah, you sound cool.
It was
That
worth a
sounds
try.
good. I like it. it.
No, you're more in the music scene than I am, so
Well, I hope so.
you should be feeding me stuff.
I hope so. I do. I feed you a lot of stuff. All right. Joe says, my wife is a high school teacher. The stuff that is said to her is unreal. So, well, what age group do you teach, Erin?
Elementary.
Elementary. Okay. So they're still nice at that age, right? For the most part?
For the most part. I think yes, that the things that are said in a high school, but I'm assuming, I would hope that there's consequences, right? So you have consequences for what is said, of which there comes in the responsibility piece and the accountability that I talked about earlier. So yes, I get it. High school kids are going to say things that they shouldn't say, but I would sure hope that there's some form of consequence for telling somebody who knows what, and kids are going to say things and kids are going to make mistakes. They're kids. That's what we do. That's why we teach them. That's why we give consequences so they learn. But when you relate it to that, there's the consequences that I'm talking about. The accountability is what we need to put into place so that those kids there should be consequences. And I can tell you at my school, there are consequences, but it all depends on how it's played out. If we're just going to roll with the fact that, like Chris says, kids don't get consequences. Well, right or wrong,
Yeah, there is
I'm
the
pretty,
comment.
All right, all future
pretty
guests,
sure.
take note. We tell everybody that you can see the comments come in live. Erin's the first one that referenced it before we did.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, I'm cool with that. That's why we tell you that it's there. So
Yeah, it's, like that's the accountability piece. Kids have to understand, and parents have to understand that there has to be consequences for your actions. If I go out and rob a store, there's a consequence.
Is there?
Something should happen to me.
Is there? I live in Cook County. I'm not sure about that.
Let's clear.
That's what we should be looking for within our hockey community. Is there has to be some form of accountability, and that's what's missing.
Well, what do you think if like, so you have suspensions, but what do you think if the parent, acts out in the stands and they tell them they're gone for 30 days, that the kid has to go for 30 days as well? I think that would stop it real fast, personally, because I think the minute you call a parent out, like some parent, gets a 3-game suspension, you can't come to the rink, and you tell the kid, oh, well, your parent just got thrown out, now you got to leave, and you get to say, I guarantee it wouldn't happen again, because the kid would not allow it to happen.
Hang on, I'll make an excellent point for you, and I'm not putting anybody down in this world. What about the messy, ugly divorce that one parent's barely ever around, the other one's always around, and they show up just to smite the other one?
And
how do you deal with that one?
Why would you?
Do they show up at the rink to do it? I mean, is that what happens? Seriously? Like, I don't know from that.
You don't think people do stuff like that? Come on.
Why
we had
would
an
you
investigation that we found out it was a parent from a different team that happened to be there beforehand, and they were upset about the other team. So they were yelling at the referees from the one parent's side. Nobody knew who they were. They were a fan for the next game, and they got ejected from the game. The referees got off the ice. They came in and watched the game. The incident report went in on the team that was playing in the game.
Well, I had something similar to that a few weeks back. I had a parent that was behaving badly that was asked to leave, and then they came back the second time after they'd been asked the first time, and I think that U18 coach was ready to go over and absolutely escort him out of there by himself. I don't think he was going to escort him, though, at least from what I had heard.
Maybe by his ear.
But, the point being, he didn't even have a kid playing in that game. He was a leftover from a couple games prior to that, and probably had some fire water, as you like to put it, or some Milwaukee water, whatever. And he was left over from a couple games before. And, so he was behaving badly.
I think it's really hard to punish a kid for an adult's actions. Although, yes, I think it would get the point across.
It, though. I think the kid would make sure it didn't happen again. I really believe that.
How's that kid? You're putting a kid in charge of
the parents'
an adult's actions, and that's not fair. That's not fair to that child. They're talking about minors, right? You're talking about kids that they may be just as embarrassed. They may be maybe there's something going on at home that there shouldn't be going on at home. Maybe there's you don't know what that situation is, and I think putting that child in that situation is very dangerous and very unfair to that kid. But I think there has to be a consequence, and I can tell you the 3-game suspension from Mahai obviously doesn't do anything. A lot of the problem is you don't know who it is. And if you put that responsibility on a referee, right? I can't tell who that person is. I'm on the ice. I have 20 players on this side and 20 players on this side and 4 coaches on each bench. And you want me to now worry about the fans in the stands?
No, I agree with you on that, because we've had situations where we've gone to the bench and nobody will claim who it is.
Yeah.
You'll eventually find out. You may have to wait a half hour and, maybe have a conversation with the goalie that you've been friendly with all day, and the goalie will give up who it is.
Who is that?
Somebody will, ultimately who is that guy? Oh, that's little Johnny's dad.
That's 18's dad. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the only way that you're going to...
It's they won't claim him. You go to the bench and the coaches all sit there no, he's not with us. Well, he's sitting on your side and he's been watching the game the whole time. You know, somehow
Why
you're
does
going to
that have
find
to
out.
be the referee's responsibility? Doesn't the referee have enough to worry about in that situation? So why wouldn't we want to hire somebody or put somebody in the rink that each rink is responsible for, or each team is responsible for having somebody to monitor that? And you pay them, and they're there to monitor the parents and make sure. My husband has always said for years, he's like, I'll go do it. Let me sit in the rink for a week. I'll do it. He's like, you think they'll pay me to do that? Like, that would be.
I can see it on his back. Staff. I can see it right on his back in big yellow letters on a black jacket.
That would be that person's responsibility.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I've evaluated games where I've walked up to parents and I've been like, what's going on? What is there something I can help you with? And their responses are not good.
And mind your own business.
Or not in so many words.
Yeah, exactly.
And I pull out my phone and I say, you have two options. You can either leave or I can call the police. Which one would you like? And that's all it takes, is somebody to hold them accountable and make it stop immediately. You can't report it later. You can't have somebody that's gonna, I'm gonna report this and they're the next 3 games. No, the next 3 games don't matter. It's right now. What's happening right now has to stop.
No. Let's see this. Joe's just got a comment
There's
here.
A whole bunch of them.
I almost
flying
removed
around
a parent
over
last
there.
weekend while mentoring a first-year official. The player of that father asked if I yelled at his dad, and he told me, yeah, he yells a lot. Well, I can tell you, I was at a game that I was supervising a couple weeks ago, and I think it was a 10-year-old kid, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid cussed the referee out. Referee gave him misconduct, sent him right to the penalty box. The parent had a heart attack. The parent was more obsessed than the kid was in the, like, just ranting. Like, I see where the kid gets it. I get it. Like, now I understand.
Where do you think you learned it from?
Huh?
Where do you think you learned it from?
Where do you learn it from? Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it was unbelievable.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, that is something that you're dealing with, you know, and I'm sure, you know, well, it's amazing you don't have to deal with that more at school. But again, you're working with younger kids, and, you know, if it was high school, it might be a little different for you. I'm sure, you know, high school teachers probably get a little more.
I've taught in a very rough high school, actually, in my area.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because, you know, again, I'm going to go back to the event business, and I've played in some schools that are pretty tough neighborhoods, and I've noticed that I think the teachers it's almost a different role that they play in the school. In a lot of cases, they're almost more of the parent or the friend to some of the students, and those students are there, you know, longer hours of the day than most kids. They're not leaving at 3:00 to go home. They may be staying there till 6 or 7. And it's the place for them to be and to have some company and have a friend, and it's almost like a support for them. So it is different in different markets, obviously, or, you know, different communities. So you know, I can appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. We wanted to talk Olympics with you, and we got sidetracked a little bit, but I mean, like,
that's okay.
Anything you want to say or you know, tell the officials that might want to get to the Olympic Games or to that next level, some advice for them that you'd like to share before we continue here? I mean,
I guess if, you know, first of all, the last, you know, you're going to have other guests come on, and I am so absolutely proud of the people that were at the Olympics this year. They had to have missed out on some just general Olympic things that they didn't get to do. I'm so glad they got to go to opening ceremonies and got to do things like that. But I'm so proud of them because these last 2 years have been so rough and even harder within this setting. So they are absolutely worked so hard to get there, and I'm so glad that it actually happened and that they were able to make it there. As far as officials wanting to get to that level and wanting to work high levels of hockey, my biggest piece of advice is that you never know who's watching you. You never know. You never know who's in the stands.
Never know who's in the building, right?
You know,
that's always
somebody
great
could
advice.
be in the building that, you know, you could have. I remember I was my first year. I was a goalie, and my first year I never had a pair of skates. I played hockey at the University of Finley, and I would go into our locker room and I would find a pair of skates that fit well enough to referee, and I would go out on the ice. I fell all the time. I was always on the ice, and happened to be like my third or fourth game, and I kept falling, and there was somebody in the stands that started giving me scores for my falls. Turns out that person was Mark Wilkins. At the time, he was the referee in chief for the Mid-Am district where I was at. And that person ended up helping me within a year go to regional camp, and within 2 years go to select camp. And so you never know who's watching, and you never know who's going to support you. So relying on the people that are in your area to help you and express your desires of what you want to do is really, really important. It's
Gotta tell somebody.
Yeah, you gotta tell somebody. You gotta make sure that your desires are known. And if you don't know it, but you're good, somebody's gonna tell you, and somebody's gonna put the bug in your ear. So, work hard, and you never know who's watching you.
Well, one of the things I've always been amazed with is the referee community, how much they share and they care for their other officials and trying to help them get to that next level and learn. Because I know when I started out, and you're one of the people that helped me when I did, I had a lot of questions, and you were patient with me and taught me a lot. And, there were a number of officials that were like that, so that, when you showed up to your first couple men's league games, you had some questions. I can remember one of the officials, our game was canceled, and we sat there for an hour and a half and just talked hockey. Even though he could have gone home, he stayed and answered questions. So I think that's really cool, and I've always appreciated that. Let's see. Got some more comments. If there were more people like Erin in Illinois hockey, we'd not be in the situation we are. But that's not the reality, so we need more officials with her work ethic. Yep, well said.
Thanks, Judge.
How likely are you to penalize a goalie? Hey, I was a goalie.
I was
Erin
a goalie.
was a
I got penalties all the time.
Goalies make good referees, right? You give them a little leeway, don't you, Erin? You know what it's like back there.
I'm not going to say that I do.
You don't?
No. I know what to look for because I did it all.
Yeah, but that little whack on the legs, that player's got it when they got to deserve that when they're back in that crease.
All right, next
I didn't deserve it, but I just know what to look for.
Okay. So anything else you'd like to add? I mean, the time goes so fast here. I really want to thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it and your insights.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me. I've, loved to be involved and help others out. And it's so fun to see the names on the side. Some of those names I haven't seen in a long time. So hopefully here in the next, I'll say year. How about that? Give me a little bit of time. We'll be back on the ice.
Okay. Good deal.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anything you want to say before we go, Brad? Anything you want to comment on?
No, again, we're a quarter past the actual hour, which it goes by that fast always, every time.
It does. So thank you all for checking us out. If you'd like to contribute to the show and help us continue, you can go to you can go to buymeacoffee.com/refroom, and you can buy Brad and I a coffee at any time that you'd like. Erin, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best. I think you're 7 months along right now, so you'll have your two-man system ready to go pretty soon.
We're working on it.
Right,
getting them ready. We'll get them on skates soon.
Are we gonna have a 3-man or a 4-man coming anytime soon? Or
easy there, buddy. Easy.
Brad's got his 2-man system. He's already got his 2-man system worked out.
Good.
So we can get a 4-man out of the two of you. There you go.
Put them together, Brad. There you go.
Right.
Hang on. Next year, Scott, they'll be turning 12 during the season.
Yep. They're going to be out there.
Yeah, so we got one more year,
up.
and then they'll be ready if we stay at 12. So it'll be here sooner than we think.
Yeah. Well, they might go down, at the rate we're going, we might go down to needing 10-year-olds to come out and referee pretty soon because, I don't know about that, but, we did go from 14 down to 12. So, but anyway. All right, guys.
And it was a success. So
yes. Yeah.
It was definitely worth it.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you again. We will see you all next Monday. We do this every Monday at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. For those of you watching on Facebook, thank you. And the replays are all up there. So if there's an episode that you haven't seen that you'd like to check out, go to youtube.com/c/refroom. Check it out. Give us a like. Hit that subscribe button and ding the notification bell. And, smash that like button a few times, too. We like that as well. Did you hit the subscribe button yet, Erin?
Not yet. I will.
Not
Don't
yet.
worry. I will. I promise.
This is the end of the show where Scott guilts you into stuff.
Exactly.
Thank you so much,
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Have
you.
a great week. Lots of state tournament games going on. So get out there, work hard, have a great skate, and do a great job. And we will see you next Monday, 5:30 p.m. right here. Peace out from the Ref Room, everybody.